Yeah, you withheld that burp.
What?
We've done far worse on this podcast, and you literally just withheld a burp.
No, I didn't. I was looking at you to say, like, intro.
No, before you were like...
Oh, was I? I wasn't aware.
Anyway, hello, I'm Zak.
I'm Laura.
And welcome to another episode of Articulate Warbling. We usually... It's basically the sign of the norms. Life is going back to normal. Because at one point we were just firing out content, but now that reality is kind of seeping in now, you're not getting as much content out of us.
I have a social life, you guys.
Yeah, alright then.
Rude.
I can't really say I have it, either.
Look, you've been invited to a double date next week, don't complain.
Ugh, people, really?
Oh, you'll love Susie.
I love Susie already.
Well then, you'll be fine.
And I've only met her on...
Two occasions. 6 foot apart.
Yeah.
At our front door. Because the first time was during a lockdown, and the second time was when we were actually isolated.
Yeah. And various webcam sessions you've had with her.
Yeah.
That sounded wrong. Not webcam as in showing off their goods. Everything accepted on webcam and Zoom meetings. But anyway, it's Laura's birthday tomorrow, so happy birthday to you. You are going to be 24. 20 Laura Zoo Lane. Do you remember that show?
It was 74,
Zoo,
yeah.
Oh, 74. I know it's 70.
No, it wasn't 64.
64 Zoo Lane.
Yeah.
You're going to be 24. What have you learnt in your 24 years? Not to start an Articulate Warbling podcast like this.
Holy shit, what a question. What have I learnt? I mean, parents are awesome, but they're also kind of shit. I've learnt that. I've learnt that alcohol can be your best friend or your worst enemy. Because I've seen alcoholism in people, and I've seen how it has actually helped me just to be a bit looser in life when I have a couple of tipples. And I don't.
You've enjoyed it.
Yeah, I've
and you
enjoyed
haven't
it.
had an adverse effect.
I haven't had any adverse. So just to give you some background, alcohol does not agree with me, and up until last year I couldn't drink anything. Now I have discovered sangria and pink lemonade, and it just makes me feel a little bit jolly. It just takes the edge off a little bit, and it's been really nice this weekend. I felt really happy. I felt really jolly. I felt a bit more energetic. I don't think it's because of the alcohol completely. I think there's just a number of things kind of in. But anyway, point is,
you're going to be 24.
Woo! And yeah, other than that, I've realised that you've got to sort through a shit ton of wheat. You've got to sort through a shit ton of chaff to find the wheat, which doesn't help me because I'm gluten free. So you're not really my wheat, because that would mean that I am intolerant to you. So,
you're intolerant of me sometimes most of the time.
But not like wheat.
No.
This is like garlic.
Not like if I come near you, it's like, you're like...
This is like garlic, where I love it most of the time, and then sometimes it gives me the shits.
Well, it's been nice to see you easing back a little bit. It's quite nice to... It's funny, like, you take on your partner's cadences and behaviours when you first get together. So I kind of always withheld from drinking, because it's like, well, Laura doesn't drink. It's not really... And you never ever have been the one like, you can't drink around me. You're like, I don't give a fuck.
I hate it when you're drunk, though. Twice I've seen you drunk and I hate it.
Why?
Because you're just annoying. Because I'm not drunk and you are, I'm like, don't be such a dick, you absolute
I am not
idiot.
bad at all. I used to be far worse.
Well, I'm not denying that.
Have I started on a brick wall?
The other day you came to me whilst I was sitting having a wee, slurring at me at the door, going, Mum and Bryony won't bring me more alcohol. And I went, I don't think you need any more. But they won't come and get me any more alcohol, Laura. And then next thing I know...
That was the imposed 10-day lockdown, yep.
And then the next thing I know, you were passed out on the bed and you napped and you were fine by the time you woke up and had some dinner. I think it's anything. If you're the one that's sober and people around you are drunk, I'm just like, oh, fuck off, you dickhead. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're very intolerant.
I am when other people are drunk and I'm sober, yeah. But if I'm feeling a bit tipsy and you're tipsy too, I don't care. Yeah. But it's because I've had my whole life always being the sober one. It's boring. It is boring. Anyway.
So you're basically saying you're boring?
No, I'm not saying I'm boring. I'm saying it's boring that I can't.
I know that feeling because I grew up with loads of people who would just smoke weed, and you are the only sane person.
And they're annoying, right?
Yeah. Well, they're dull as fuck because they're just zombies.
But they're annoying.
It is annoying, yeah.
It's irritating.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. If you get a bit pissed, you're having a jolly old time.
Of course I am.
I'm watching you like you look like an idiot.
Well, at least I ain't in
Because I'm
public.
sober. That's true. But anyway, yeah, I'm not. I've never been the type of person that's been like, you can't drink because I can't drink. You do whatever the fuck
But you best
want.
not drink because Laura will just rinse you on a podcast.
I always rinse you on a podcast.
Yeah.
You can't ever win, can you really?
Never. Not
Even
with you.
DB knows that.
Not with you, nor DB. Anyway, what shall we flag up first?
I think we should start with the home watches.
The home watches.
Finish with the cinemas.
Yes.
Yeah?
The home watches.
So, let's start with, we should make our own jingles. DB, make jingles for us, please.
Or maybe take audio extracts of the films or from the trailers. I feel like we're lacking something professional on that level. Like,
We want more jingly things.
we want more jingly things, and you can't really say edited and produced when you're not even putting the jingles in, DB. Come on! Edited and produced by DB Spitzer in Portland, Oregon. Also, half the time you say written, and none of this is written. This is off the top of our fucking noggins.
Let me
Also,
tell you, the only thing that's written right now is the films that we're going to talk about.
yeah, sometimes I go off some reviews that I've written just as like familiarisations, but half the time we're not actually recording in Brighton. The majority of the time it's in Eastbourne. So next time, DB,
Better acoustics in these.
Brighton or Eastbourne. Yeah.
Now who's withholding a burp?
Yeah, I should have just gone for it, but I might have sprayed you.
Resident Evil retrospective.
Not a prolonged one, though, because I don't think there's much to say about each film singly.
I'm going to start with,
Go.
I've never seen Resident Evil until this last week and a half. It's not something that I've even fucking heard of. And to be honest, when Zach first put it on, I thought, oh, this is going to be a bunch of absolute shit. And I was right with the first two films, in my opinion.
And you're entitled to your opinion, even if you are wrong.
Not how it works. I'm kind of twitching like Sheldon Cooper right now.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, anyway. So, should we just run through with quick star ratings with this one?
Number one, I was surprised at how bad it was. I remember loving this a long time ago.
Rating?
2 stars.
Agreed. Second film?
That is Resident Evil Apocalypse, 4 stars. I love the second.
Sorry, 2.
I love it. I love the practical effects. I love everything that was the essence of what could have been improved upon in the first one. They did it in the second one. I love the stunts. I love the whole physicality of it. Much like the earlier films in the series, it's all there. It's done in front of the camera in silver green screen. So yeah, 4 stars.
Fair enough, but I was really bored. I don't think I was in the best mood, but I'm not
No,
sure
you
watching
weren't
it
those
again
first
was
2
going to help.
days.
But anyway, 3,
Resident Evil Extinction, 4.5 stars.
4 stars. 4,
No, that went down actually. It went to 3.5.
4, 5.
Resident Evil 4 was Afterlife. Resident Evil 5 was Retribution. That gets... I know people are going to laugh at me. I'm giving it 5 because
Me too.
it's a fucking badass
Me
film.
too. I really enjoyed it. And 6.
The final chapter, I don't even think it is worth consideration. It's not even worth the time of day. Nothing. It's a turkey.
0 stars.
Yep.
Fabulous. Okay.
Shit the bed on that one, Paul W.S. Anderson.
So a couple of agreements there, a couple of slight disagreements in
Yeah.
the sense of like maybe we're 0.5 of a star
Yeah.
apart, and then second one
Yeah.
it's completely different.
So, what worked for you on the third film? Where you started liking it?
It picked up. It was a bit more snappy, a bit more kind of actiony, a bit more like I'm actually.
You're more familiar with characters, maybe. Do you think that
Yeah,
helps?
more familiar with characters. I care more about the characters.
spend more time
I
with them.
understand more about what's going on. And I feel a bit more tension. I mean, there's only so much you can do with a zombie movie, right? And apocalyptic stuff is meh.
Dystopian. They went more in the supernatural realms, didn't they?
But I also like the fact that it was... Because usually you have a zombie film and it's isolated. You know that it's worldwide, but it's only isolated in that one town that they're in or that one city that they're in, right? But actually when you start realising the manipulation of the
Umbrella
whole...
corporation,
of the
yeah.
corporation, all of that, I love that.
The widespread. You know that it is worldwide.
Yeah, and I love that kind of
that
incorporation of how much technology really is behind everything, and that really developed sort of 3, 4 and 5, that really developed into what you think is just viral technology that they almost stumbled upon to something that they are really, really manipulating everything about.
Everything, every little mismanaged biohazard, like it is bioweaponry, but the thing is, not just bioweaponry, you should see the corporate type. And I think it's quite interesting on a capitalist, corporative angle, the commentary on it, because these films were made in 2002, 2004, 2007. Even way back then, they were kind of like anticipating the uprising in like technology. I know it's always been something that's focused on science fiction and dystopian films, but I like that they were kind of a little bit of ahead on predicting, you know, the essences of these huge corporations. Fourth one, Afterlife. What appealed to you for that to be a 4-star film?
I think again the snappiness, the fact that we're continuing to follow this, you know, similar characters, the same characters going through. I think again the more kind of evolving of what the corporation are doing, how they're actually managing it. Because like I said before, you know, it felt very much like it was kind of, this virus was almost stumbled upon, and it was kind of created and then kept in this really small area, and then you realise how bad they actually made it, and it was kind of
an experiment.
purposeful.
It's all an experiment. Yeah.
That's very clever.
Yeah.
I like that kind of psychological warfare sort of thing.
It is psychological warfare, and on a
humongous level.
Scale.
Yeah.
And I think Paul W.S. Anderson, apart from the last one, what really helped with this series was he was there from the beginning. As director of the first one, okay, we'll let him pass. But as a writer, because you see, if you have different writers and teams, they kind of lose grip. They kind of compete with the other films, and they kind of want to imbue it with their hot takes. We see this with franchise movies. Different directors come in, different creative teams, and they fuck up the continuity.
Yeah.
So from the first to the fifth, it's been very lucky that Paul W.S. Anderson is so heavily invested in this world. He has it mapped out, per se. Whereas the last one, he contradicts everything, writes around a lot of, you know... He creates plot holes where there shouldn't have been plot holes. But yeah, I agree with you on that level. I feel that it's a bit long in the tooth, Afterlife, with the slow motion. I get that. But the fucking fifth one, it's just... He is a populist filmmaker. He is a Hollywood blockbuster. I mean, his pen name, is W.S. Anderson, Wide Shot Anderson. It's in his name. He's about the wide shots, the scope, everything being seen on screen. And I think it's sensational. Considering this is only 50 to 60 million, how epic, how vast it is. Also, his application of 3D at the time, he knew it was a gimmick. And he's like, well, what do you do with a gimmick? People are coming to the cinema.
That was the best used 3D, even though we weren't watching it in 3D.
You can see and isolate. You can isolate it, can't you?
Yeah.
And you can see that this film has been orchestrated, constructed with 3D to be used at its maximum peak. Not all this pretentious twaddle like filmmakers, I want to give you the sense of depth. We want shit, blood, big, huge biohazard weapons thrown at us.
That's the whole point of
3D. It's a gimmick. And a gimmick will never be high art. No matter whomever deals with it. No matter J.J. Abrams. No matter George Lucas. You need to treat it as what it is. It's a gimmick. So that is what I loved about Retribution. And I think Retribution ended on the most perfect ending. It could have ended there, and I think it should have ended there. Now, why was the final chapter bad, Laura?
First of all, it didn't actually follow on at all from the fifth one. And it felt really sloppy, felt like it was thrown together. I just hated it. I hated every second. I was bored within the first 10 minutes, and then still had to go through the rest of the 80 minutes that it was going to continue on for. And it was just shocking. And you could just tell that it was like, you need to change the story. We haven't got so much money this time, so you need to change it alter it in order to make sure that you don't spend as much money on it.
Yeah, and Retribution it wasn't a financial failure. It just didn't hit the mark or the numbers akin to Afterlife, and that is in due course because of the 3D gimmickry. 2010, it was at the peak of it. It was Paul W.S. Anderson also returning to the world of Resident Evil as a director, with all these new toys to play with on a filmic level. Retribution, he takes all of that and he learns. It's also the most interesting story. I love the notion of returning characters, but it feeds into the characters don't die, but not out of a sense of resurrection, but out of the sense of these people are clones. Who is the reality? Who is the essence? Who is the beginner? And because everyone's associated with Umbrella, of course they have their genetic DNA. I like also the notion that Mila Jovovich's character ends up being a mother figure, someone you would never assume being a mother in this world. Retribution does everything right. I love that Paul W.S. Anderson hones in on those specific filmic niches and tailors them and betters them and better appropriates them. It's just a badass film. It's not high art, but it's high entertainment, and that's what you come for. Whereas final chapter, you have less of a budget, so his initial plan was vetoed, so he wrote around what he wasn't able to achieve. In reality, it was, that big cliffhanger you kind of were ushering onto us at the end of Retribution. Yeah, you can't do it, Paul. Okay, I'll write around it. And the film was haphazard. The film was plagued by a lot of tragedy. A man died on set. One of the prop operators got crushed to death. A stunt driver, of whom lays too much blame on Paul W.S. Anderson. You see, there's a whole crew and unit, stunt team, of whom are there to manage these things. So Paul W.S. Anderson says to a crane operator, elevate this up a little bit, please. The stunt team need to correspond with each other to then pass on that information to the stunt woman in question. That didn't happen, and she ended up severely life-alteringly damaged. She lost her arm, twisted spine, all sorts of things, but she has been awarded in courts. But the film was kind of played from the beginning. Budget cuts, a kind of forced, this better be a hit, Paul, this better be a hit, because his last two films hadn't been a hit. And he kind of undid everything that he introduced. There was so much more that could have been there, and all the criticisms that had been thrown at him, I felt he kind of perfected and kind of went, you know what, I am what I am, I'm going to enliven it, I'm going to live it up to a certain degree with Retribution, but I'm also going to acknowledge these issues. Still, criticism in the face of it, much like Michael Bay with his final film in a certain franchise, The Last Night of the Transformers series. They go, you know what, you say I'm this type of filmmaker, I'm going to be that type of filmmaker. And he was very reactionary. He made everything super fast, so fast that the way the editor, Doobie White, who had too many doobies whilst editing this, I think, cut the fucking film to shit. Like, you cannot tell what is going on. Like, the hand-to-hand combats, there's no room to breathe. You don't know what's happening on screen.
I lost track of so many things so quickly.
Yeah, it was headache-inducing and incoherent. Yeah. Then he followed that up with Monster Hunter, where he took that freneticism and tailored it. So, yeah. As a series, I love it. I do. I really enjoy it. I think...
I can understand that. I wouldn't say I love it, but I can understand the enjoyment factor.
It is pure switch off, engage, but it's got enough of sprinkling of science fiction,
it's clever
commentary and social narration that it elevates it beyond just a mindless zombie action film, because it isn't really horror. It's more survival, dystopian, retro, futuristic mania. Yeah. And I really enjoy the series, so if you haven't watched it, I recommend you do. Even if it's the first one, because you kind of need the first one to have those associated bonds. The first one isn't so much a travesty, it's just, it doesn't pick up until the last 20 to 30 minutes.
Okay, so next up is Raya and the Last Dragon. So I'm going to give you a quick synopsis because it's a newer film. So Raya, a warrior, sets out to track Sisu, a dragon who transferred all her powers into a magical gem which is now scattered all over the kingdom of Kamandra, dividing its people.
Disappointed. I really came into this wanting to love it. The trailer was amazing, it offered so much, it annoyed me that that's so... Do you know when music in the trailer is so specific to how it's cut and you know it's the essence of the film and then that thing isn't in the finished film? It really annoyed me.
I know. I mean, I both loved and hated it. it's a Marmite film.
Yeah.
It's really hard because I loved it because it was kind of, it was funny, it was sweet, it was, I think I quite like the whole woman empowerment thing, because often you have these warriors that are always the male warriors. It was quite nice to see that agenda, but without it being an agenda.
I like that it was a different culture, different cultures represented, but not...
But it didn't feel like it was imposed on you.
No, it's just natural for the story and the world that you're within, you're pitted within. It is a natural inclination to share different culture, different race, different ethnicities, different beliefs and ideologies, but not so like, we're including these because we're progressive! Because loads of studios are doing that now, aren't they?
Yes.
We're progressive as fuck! Look! Anne Boleyn's black! How progressive can we get? You are contradicting yourselves and making yourselves look even stupider and as tone deaf as ever. I think Raya's benefit was the action sequences, also Ninja Baby with her monkey creatures. I like the characters surrounding Raya.
Yeah.
I didn't like the main plot thread. Awkwafina,
she's so annoying.
she's not funny. She is not a comedic talent. She is a little bit like Chris Rock in the sense that she has a unique sounding voice and she basically leans in and weighs in on that. Oh, hey, yeah, oh, am I doing this? Oh, a quirky dragon. When Awkwafina actually gives a more nuanced performance, a little bit like Kelly Marie Tran's vocal performance of Raya, it eases you in. But there's something very haphazard about this. It feels choppy in certain places. It was meant to feel a little bit more expansive than it is, but I don't know how to describe it. It feels kind of... I think it's because of the specificity of the geography of the world. This place, that place, this place. There's not much more ground around that. So they want this epic martial arts, multicultural storyline, but it's still a little bit blinkered in the sense that it's a bit too small, a bit too comfortable. It's like when they say that you shrink the universe of Star Wars when characters keep coming across other characters for the series. It shrinks the universe when Star Wars is a galaxy far, far away, galaxies and galaxies, but you end up passing into this character from the second film, but you haven't seen him since the 9th film. And I know that they do that for fan appeasement, but it does shrink the universe a lot. I think by shrinking the universe with Star Wars, it's relatable because the accessibility to the spacecraft you can. But in a world like this, it is magical. It is like that cut off. You're quarantined on that one half of the map, and there's nowhere else to go. The be all and end all of this universe is we need to get the dragons back, and then everything's all hunky dory. Whereas you've kind of not that I wanted a sequel, but you cut off potential a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, the animation is beautiful. I mean, Disney have been doing interesting things on their own with their Walt Disney Pictures animation team. Because Pixar's a whole other entity, they're separate. But this one kind of was lacking for me. So for me, it's a 3-star film.
I think I'm going to give it 4. I did really quite enjoy it. I completely understand where you're coming from, but I think I still got that part of me that... It's hard. Before I met you, I watched films to shut off like my mum does. And then once I met you, obviously we started doing the podcast and everything. So I do think a bit more deeper into films. But for this, somehow I managed to just completely forget that I needed to be critical and just went, I really like this, it's cute. So, sorry, it's a bit of a shitty
It's alright, but you said you loved and hated it. What didn't you like about it?
What's her name?
Awkwafina.
I just really don't like her. Her voice is annoying.
Yeah.
I just thought that it was, and I felt like there was a bit... I loved the idea of the dragons. I thought that was sweet. I loved the little baby and her monkeys, and I loved the little boy and his little boat, and I loved that everybody sort of came together from each different area almost. And I like the fact that it's like I'm not really telling you what the hate things are at the moment, am I? But I love the idea of the fact that the kids are so innocent that they don't see the grown-up stuff, so that actually they can make the world a better place because they don't see all the politics, which I absolutely adored. But I love the fact that the politics was still there for the adults' point of view. I just really don't like. I still can't remember her name. What's her name?
Aquafina.
Aquafina. It's the weirdest name I think I've ever heard.
She is the strangest person in Hollywood at the moment.
I really just don't like her voice. Some things, I think maybe I don't hate her as much as you, because some things I was like, that's kind of funny, and you were like, ugh.
No, the comedy aspect of Aquafina, it's her big entry into Hollywood was as a comedian, a comedic actress. Whereas I've seen her do serious roles, and I'm like, that's your bread and butter. You're a really good serious actress. But because she was introduced to this world as a certain thing, she's going to have to play up to that archetype.
Yeah.
She's in a beautiful foreign language film called Farewell, and that movie is where she's speaking in her native tongue. And it's kind of stripped bare. It's kind of Hollywood has misappropriated her as this comedic gem, whereas I don't think she is. Like a misappropriation of certain actresses here and now, like Kristen Wiig. Oh, she is the comedic actress. After Bridesmaids, she could have continued doing comedy after comedy after comedy. She was in bit parts, but she actually has gone on to do loads of indie turns.
Yeah.
And I think Kristen Wiig has only returned recently in big Hollywood films with Wonder Woman 1984, playing Cheetah. And though that had comic elements, there's an actress under there screaming to be seen. And I think Aquafina is just the top. It's a popular name at the moment. It's a brand. And she's also going to be in a movie called Shang-Chi, Legend of the Ten Rings. And she's doing her comedic shtick there. But then I saw certain elements in the recent trailer. Also, shout out to Abomination. He looks awesome. Can't wait to see him. Also, everyone going on about the fins on Abomination. People change character designs all the time. You can see that she is an actress who's just been pigeonholed wrongly. I think certain moments when it's more sombre and sincere, performance-wise, subtle, she's good. And not playing up on that husky, unique New Yorkian voice.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, for me, Raya and the Last Dragon, 3 stars.
Okay.
You said 4, yeah.
Yeah, I did say 4, sorry. Okay, so again, going to give you a synopsis because that seems to be my best part of this stuff nowadays.
You're not just here for reading out synopses.
Next up is Happy Death Day. Happy Death Day is a 2017 American black comedy slasher film, which is not helpful at all because it doesn't actually give me even the slightest bit of a synopsis. So a college student must relive the day of her murder over and over again in a loop that will end only when she discovers her killer's identity.
We struggled with the first one in the first 25 minutes because it does not make itself clear that it is a comedy.
No, it doesn't. We think it's going to be a serious horror, sci-fi,
sci-fi horror, Groundhog Day style time travel film.
Yeah. Genuinely thought it was serious, genuinely thought that I need to be scared for my life. Turns out it's fucking hilarious.
It's brilliant. Very well written, very well directed, clever, as per usual. Most of these films are.
I feel like we needed the first 25 minutes, but it did need to just introduce that comedy a little earlier. We needed the setup, but we needed to know that it was comedic.
I've only been aware of Happy Death Day via the poster, the notion of the director, and what he's done and how he's progressed from certain other films. He was a head writer on some of the later half Paranormal Activity films. He is a gay voice in Hollywood, and you can see that his gay filmic style and sensibilities.
Yeah.
And I always love a filmmaker whose identity is ingrained in a film and it's not genderised. And this is why a lot of filmmakers, gay, queer filmmakers, are fabulous directors of horror and genre films, is because they can sprinkle that element in, and it's kitsch and it's almost art deco in its extravagance. Yes, first 20 minutes was difficult because you couldn't define what it was.
Yeah.
And then
you just thought it was a shit horror.
Yeah. And then it plays into those, and I think maybe that first 20 minutes is quite clever in the sense that it upends it all.
Part of me wonders whether they first did the first 20 minutes and thought this is genuinely going to be the way it is, and then somebody walked in and went, what a bunch of absolute shit, we need to change this up.
No, I think that the director went in wholeheartedly like, If people haven't, because a lot of filmmakers still go out and make movies with the assumption that not many people have watched the trailer. It's interesting. If we watched the trailer, we might have gathered that it was a comedy.
Yeah.
But by the poster and its execution, it's very obvious, even with the synopsis, that it's a slasher time travel film. With time travel comes, so many tendrils of association, like it's kind of like, ooh, highfalutin,
Yeah.
Whereas it takes it as a genre norm, and it's like the Pope sensibilities of it. It is quite populist. It isn't thinking it's smarter than everyone else in the room. It's just fucking fun.
Mm-hmm.
It is camp. It is nichey. It is brilliant. I loved it, and I'm going to have to give it 4 stars.
Do you know what I'm going to do?
What?
I'm going to give it 5.
What?
I can forgive its misgivings for the first 20 minutes. Yeah. I was really good. I liked it. Okay, so moving on to Happy Death Day to You. So that's the second one.
Happy Death Day to you. Happy Death Day to you. I don't need to go for a poo. That was quite unsure. Okay, you go for it.
So Tree Gelbman is the survivor of a time loop in which she was repeatedly murdered by a sadistic killer. That was the first one. However, when she finds herself in the same situation again, she sets out to stop it for good. That does not explain the film at all.
No, it's quite interesting. This goes the way of which it introduces you to someone else's, someone who's not even a bit player in the first film.
If this film was going to be purely about him, I would literally kill myself.
Yeah.
That's how much I really just didn't like his character particularly. But his character grew on me because of the fact that it wasn't just his death day over and over again. It's
how his crossed over, and he basically...
It's how his work crossed into what created her death day to start with, and that was going to kill her all over again.
Oh, it's kind of like, you fucker, you've dragged me into this again, and then all of a sudden, no, you've caused all of this.
What I liked as well was the introduction of all the different ways she killed herself before being killed, because she was like, I'm not going to be killed, bitch. I'm going to kill myself before it gets that far. I
love the first one's the whole display. No, the second one, the whole display of... And because this is a different timeline, different things happen, and where that bit where she kills herself and her current newfound boyfriend has got a new girlfriend who is a slut.
Completely in a different world,
and then in slow motion, she's coming down, sticking her fingers up to the camera, and ends up like splattered on the pavement.
I just love this. I thought it was absolutely ridiculous, but absolutely
It played
hilarious.
up to everything that worked in the first one, and the director was like, let's turn it up to 100. Let's fucking go for it.
It was so ridiculous, but it was absolutely brilliant.
And she is sensational.
She really is.
She is so... And also, the emotion that is vaguely played in the first film...
Yeah.
About her mother and accepting her mother's death is introduced.
I love the fact that there is serious emotion in here, besides the whole slasher ridiculous.
It's quite moving.
Yeah, it was. And, and you're still rooting for her to make the right choices, but then you're still laughing at her when she looks at this skydiving poster and she's like, that's the way I'm going to kill myself today. I also loved the introduction, and this started in the first film but was continued in the second. The introduction and continuing of how every death was actually having an impact in her body overall. Yeah. And I just loved the fact that not only was this just a ridiculous comedy, but it was also, there were so many serious notes in there that just made it absolutely bloody fantastic for me. I'm going to go as far as to give this 5 stars too. If I could give it more, I would.
Talking about it a little bit more, I originally was 3.5er on it. I've got to give it 4.5. It is to the max. It is what it is. I'm kind of gutted there's not going to be a final third film, but he's gone on and still continued in this vein. He has done a movie with Vince Vaughn and another actress, I can't recall her name, called Freaky, where a serial killer body swaps with his victim. He's playing up with these known, already well-trodden storylines and themes and, filmic devices, but giving them his spin. And it is inherently camp and it's inherently gay, but it's not agenderised, it's just his identity. And that is what makes a filmmaker stand out. And he is called Christopher Landon, I believe. And he is a director to look out for. Here comes your mum. A 5, a 4, a 3... a 2, a 1.
Perfect timing. So Are we done on that one?
Yeah, shall we just...
Right, next up is Friends, the reunion. Quick synopsis. The main cast of the US sitcom Friends reunite and reminisce about their time filming it and the bond they formed over the years, whilst also talking about what made the show special. Now, sorry, but Friends is a big thing for me, and I was absolutely fucking gutted that this was not a film reuniting the characters and not the cast. Very upset.
I agree.
We care about the characters. I couldn't give a shit about Lisa Kudrow and... Actually, I definitely could. But I couldn't give a shit. Let me just carry on with what I was going to say. Well, I couldn't give a shit about what Lisa Kudrow thought that where the tissues were sitting on the fucking table. Do you know what I mean? I was just sitting there like, I want to know whether she had kids with her fucking husband or whether bloody Rachel and Ross continued to say, we were on a break. You know, like, I don't really care. It was nice to see the cast come back together, don't get me wrong, but this needed to be the reunion of the characters as a last goodbye, and we didn't get it. And they said at the end that we're never going to get it. And I think for me, as a fan of Friends, the original, you know, series that went on for 10 years, I was really disappointed.
I mean, it's interesting to see behind the scenes and all such and sundry, but you can get that on the special
You could have seen that on the special features of the DVDs or whatever.
It was easy. It's a name alone sells it, so people will go clamour on HBO Max.
Yeah.
It's something that's been in the running for 5 years. I just couldn't get them together. I think it was nice to see certain people play off each other. It's so nice to see that David Schwimmer and Jennifer Aniston are still as sexually awkward against each other as ever than they were on set of the original series. I'm not a huge Friends fan. I've always been one of those who, if it's on, I'll watch it and I can jump in and out of it. But the hilarious thing is Matt LeBlanc, the shade thrown at him for him looking like your favourite drunk uncle, who also doesn't just have a penchant for fine lagers and beers, but, you know, great carbohydrate-y foods. I love Lisa Kudrow. I love Jennifer Aniston. Courtney Cox is just a wet slab for me. You can slide off her surface and you wouldn't care that you slid off her. Matthew Perry is just... I think the guy needs to be put in an iron lung. Something needs to be done for this guy. He's fucked his life up completely. Also, I want to make this quite known. David Schwimmer, oh my god. Who would have thought that we, as people, fans or not, would come away being more attracted to David Schwimmer than anyone else out of the remainder of the cast? I mean, that guy is sexy as fuck.
He really, really is.
Yeah, Friends Reunion, 3.5 stars. I mean, the celebrity cameos was Cara Delevingne, Justin Bieber, and...
Justin Bieber has improved. Cara Delevingne couldn't agree with you more.
I was leading you up for a gag there for you to do, because the celebrity guests.
Oh. Were you really?
Yeah.
Oh my god!
Oh, fuck Christ.
This is like the best impression I've ever done in my entire life. Right, well, I gave it 3 stars. I thought it was a bit shit, to be honest. Wasn't too happy about it.
And the creators going, no, we don't have plans for... And it's like, okay, at least you're not doing it for the money, but, you know, if anything, you've mismarketed this.
So, next up is Rooting for Runa, which is a documentary we found on Netflix. The synopsis is as follows. In rural India, a child with hydrocephalus gets a chance at life-changing surgery after her photos go viral. And this documentary charts her journey.
I mean, first of all, criticism has been laid on this documentary for its short form. It isn't even...
There wasn't really much else to put in there, was there, really?
No, not really, considering that the parents held off for such a prolonged period of anything actually being established to save their actual daughter. So criticism for its length. Look, it says in its name it was Netflix made, so you go in with anticipations. Look, this is something you would find on Channel 5 or one of those lesser known channels, that stream out a whole host of different varied documentaries. It's not high art, but it's documenting a very heartbreaking story. A heartbreaking story which anyone with an ounce of, empathy, paternal instincts, shade needs to be thrown at these parents.
Yeah.
And I know it's trying not to be judgmental in a sense, but that's why it cut off. But I think that a lot of magnifying glass needs to be highlighted over not specifically just the parents, but the culture they're living in.
They left it for so long that they let the poor child die, and she suffered for so long. And actually, I said if she had the operation, part of me wished that she would just die, not because I wish any ill on any child or any human whatsoever, but there comes a point where you just think this poor little girl has suffered for so long that she just needs to be laid to rest. But she died in such a horrendous way, such a lengthened way, that in the end, I just had nothing but almost happiness for her, because she's just in a better place. And sickness really for the parents that just didn't, they were given a chance for her to survive, and for free, they didn't have to pay anything for her to have this work done and this surgery done for her.
They got the replacement baby they wanted, and they basically blindsided the child that needed them and their full focus.
Precisely. For the documentary, I'm going to give it 3 stars. For the parents, I give them 0 stars because they're a fucking arsehole parenting style. Next up... Are we done? Sorry. Next up, The Strangers. I'll give you a synopsis because what's life without a synopsis on Articulate Warbling? James Hoyt and Kristen McKay go to a remote house to spend some quality time with each other, but in the wee hours of the morning, a knock at the door changes their lives.
Well, first of all, why have they put "we" in that?
I don't know, because it's a USA film. It's an American film. It's a bit weird, isn't it? This film was clearly effective because I stopped watching it because I couldn't hack the tension anymore. I struggle because it's based on a true story, but you don't really know the full events because of the fact that they died. Is it not?
No. Oh. It's just a marketing thing.
Well, you made out. You were like, it's horrible.
Because I knew that it would get you. I know it would get it under your skin even more, make it even more effective.
Well, if I'd have known it wasn't real, then I would have watched it fine. So anyway, there goes my review.
I remember 5 stars. I think it's based on true events. I just don't think it's clear cut with specifics of it. It's always going to be a fictionalised account, isn't it? Because
yeah, of course.
How the fuck do you know what they've got up to? I gave this a 5-star review way back when I started writing reviews for movieweb.com, and I remember someone went, "Wow, this review was written like poetry." I'm like, yeah, a bit like the film. Rewatching it now, years later, there's so much wrong with it editorially. There's random spaced out slow mode segments which is only there to prolong the already short length time. The film feels like it goes on longer than its 86 minutes. It felt more like 26 hours. That is in tribute to the tone and the tension. I like that. The unpredictability of the phasing in and out of, is that someone in the background? Not. But then once they've fully introduced the antagonists, it kind of loses that fading in and out of focus type. It's kind of like subliminal messages of the focus and the differing of shades and tonality of the cinematography and the shapes and forms in the background, where we have Liv Tyler up front in the foreground. But overall, it's quite a simplistic, equally effective movie to watch at night to shit you up. But from the 5-star rating long ago when I was young, 13, when I first watched it and raved about it, as I've grown as a film appreciator and critic, 3 stars. It was quite a bad rewatch for me. It kind of fell apart editorially, visually, cinematically.
Sorry, I was just looking at whether it was actually based on true events. And it was based on the life of Bettino, who I guess was the
director.
Yeah. So no, not really.
3 stars for me.
1 for me. Sorry. Right, next up is Chaos Walking. In the not too distant future, Todd Hewitt, played by Tom Holland, discovers Viola, Daisy Ridley, a mysterious girl who crash lands on his planet where all the women have disappeared and the men are afflicted by, in quotation marks, noise, a force that puts all their thoughts on display. In this dangerous landscape, Viola's life is threatened, and as Todd vows to protect her, he will have to discover his own inner power and unlock the planet's dark secrets.
I really like this film. I really wish they gave it its just desserts and put it on screens, because I think as a young adult property and IP, I think this could have been very popular with a certain age group that clamoured for the likes of Hunger Games. At one point, the Allegiant series, I think it could have been a really good franchise starter. I think it leans too heavily in world establishing than actual character development and anything actually happening. I think they focus in on the wrong things. I know that it was a very tried and tested process for Doug Liman and his crew. Doug Liman is notorious for not ever making a movie with a finished script. Every film he's done, the script's not been finished. Also, this film was made in 2017 with a hoped for 2019 release. There was a whole plethora of reshoots. I know it was hampered by a lot of infighting, which, listening to the audio commentary, there still is, even with the finished product, between Doug Liman and one of the head producers who obviously financed this endeavour and paid the big lump sum for the rights to the series. I liked it. I thought it was a unique concept that could have really been expanded upon as a series, but it kind of was thrust onto VOD because they kind of left it too long. And I think it didn't help that so many news stories and film information, even for people who don't seek it out, if way before a film's been released and there's bad blood and bad information centred upon it, a lot of people still come in with a little bit of agitation and unease, even whether or not you're the type of people who's interested in digging deep in the film industry, histrionics and background and lead up to it. I think this film was going to be a failure financially from the beginning. I loved Tom Holland in this. He's a very captivating, very personable actor, very talented, a great Spider-Man and a very good performer. Daisy Ridley, she was relatively good. I mean, she was coming off of the success of Star Wars, so they were like, well, she can lead another franchise, can't she? And I think this was the last film that she worked on. No, one of the last films she's worked on. She said she came away from Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker, and no work has been given to her, and because this hasn't been a success and hasn't been given its due diligence or desserts, it's not been given the time to progress. It's based upon the novel The Knife of Never Letting Go, and of course the Chaos Walking series by Patrick Ness, of whom then came on in the production and adapted his own work. I think they got too hampered with the world building and introduction to the universe. I think that the length of time is a bit too short for the encompassing of all that is going on. I think it's a unique concept. I think it is very entertaining. I think the concept is very high, very unique and singular, as much as the filmmakers involved like to declare it wasn't. I liked it. I liked Doug Liman as a director, but Laura didn't like it. Why?
I didn't. I liked the concept. I think it was a clever idea. I don't think it was executed particularly well. I was bored stupid. I don't feel that there was much in the way of emotion, despite the fact that they clearly tried. I didn't feel at all emotional about the characters in any way. I didn't, both of his dads died. I couldn't have given less of a toss. Sorry, but I couldn't. I had absolutely no emotional attachment to any of the characters. I didn't even, I think there were a few perhaps more comedic moments, when he's trying to hide his noise and he's like, my name's Todd Hewitt, and he's like,
shut up, Todd.
Yeah, he's and he says things that are quite funny about the fact because he's never seen a girl before, And obviously he says some things that I suppose boys are supposed to think or do think, I'm not really sure because I'm not a boy, about girls when you're kind of in that puberty stage. I thought they were quite amusing, but overall I just didn't feel, I feel like there could have been a lot more kind of integration of the noise and how that has affected people in the past. It didn't, to me, it was so disjointed.
I agree. I don't think it's boring. I think they get too focused on the world building that they kind of let the character development fall to the wayside completely, because they were cocky and arrogant in those stages, even though it was a very bad and very long process to refine this film and get it into shape and form that they fucking wanted it to. They focused on the universe more than the characters. If they bound in the characters more with the noise, like you said, with the universe, I think they set up the universe well enough, but because they got too hung up on that notion, they really wanted to not overtly explain it, but cast out the net of the expansion of what it is. They lost sight of very pivotal moments, because I think they believed that it was going to be a series and they could elevate it and extend it and attenuate it and kind of... There's always a problem.
More to it, though. If you want to make a series out of something, you've got to make more to it, because otherwise you're not going to be successful.
I think they were genuinely, because of the success of Tom Holland, Daisy Ridley coming off Star Wars, they thought that they're known names, people are going to put their bums in seats anyway. Let the first film take the brunt of where latter sequels didn't need to, then they can focus in on a specific thing. I think it was haphazardly put together. I think there are moments of very dire, boring scenes. From what I heard from the commentary and special features, a lot was cut of a action nature. I think that they tried to implement a lot of character development that then again fell to the wayside, but I still can't deny it. I fucking enjoyed it. It was nice to see a big, glossy Hollywood wannabe franchise starter, which Lionsgate is notorious for doing. They love doing franchise starters, but they never really... They basically peter out. The greatest of them being, I think, is the Gods of Egypt films, which I love. I love that film. Alex Pryor's, I know I've got you on Facebook, and I've told you this. Not that you listen to this, but Gods of Egypt, I love it. Anyway, Chaos Walking, 4 stars from me.
1 from me.
What?
I really didn't enjoy it.
Get out of your own house!
No. Next up, Come True. A teenage runaway takes part in a sleep study that becomes a nightmarish descent and a frightening examination of the power of dreams.
I mean, to be honest, this film is the personification of dull.
Then nothing happened.
Nothing happened. We got about an hour in, nothing had happened.
So we turned it off.
And we turned it off.
Because nothing had happened.
I am going to finish it at some point on my own. Just to give it my full due diligence. But for me, there's nothing there to keep me seated. It's not interesting character-wise, narratively-wise. They introduced the whole fulcrum of the whole being and essence, but there's no mystery. There's no mystery surrounding it. There's something filmically you have to do, whether narratively or visually, to keep us engaged. It was boring. I think this movie sent you into a deep, dark sleep where potential nightmare visions could come about. But for me, Come True, I'm undecided. So to be confirmed from Zach Ferguson.
Right, next up, Supernova. A gay couple, one a musician, the other a novelist, embark on a road trip as dementia starts to take hold of one of them.
A movie that has been marketed for nigh on a year and a half. A movie that we've both really wanted to see for a very long time, and we finally managed to see it.
Now, this is a film that you need to take a shit ton of tissues because your mask will not be absorbent enough. I know from experience that my mask was not absorbent enough. I could have wrung it out and drunk my tears from it.
And also, it weighed so heavy, like a damp nappy diaper for you Americans, that one of the staff members in Cineworld came in and gave Laura shit because the mask was like hanging down by her chest level, and she's like, "It's the tears."
I actually had to take I don't take my mask off in the cinema unless I'm eating or drinking. I actually had to take it off to wipe my tears away because my mask was getting too wet.
I didn't know I was crying until you passed me a tissue.
I knew you were crying.
I didn't know because I'm so taken by the performance of Stanley Tucci and Colin Firth. It's a love story. It's not a movie that is saying anything that other films haven't, but I think this is the most pure, most well felt, lived in love story ever, and it's only about we're with this couple for 2 days of their life, but you can feel with the performances the 30 years they've been together, if not longer, I think.
Yeah, it was absolutely stunning. I thought that it was
Tucci's performance, the nuances, the little moments where even when he's trying to go down the stairs and he stops himself and he's kind of unsure about the rail, little
putting
isolated.
his head through his jumper and not being able to do up his buttons. There's just so many things that are absolutely spot on about this film.
It's not screamed at you, and I like that. And that's why I have an issue with The Father. The whole thing isn't screamed at you, it's nuanced and it's subtle.
Okay, so rating for Supernova.
5 stars. It is hands down one of the most heartbreaking portrayals of dementia and the most beautiful film that... Colin Firth says it in a line in the film. He says, and this should be its overall subtitle, it's not about anything else but love.
Yeah, it was an ultimate love story.
And I really hope that the director, who I think it's very clever, like there's a lot of push for people to see Nomadland on the big screen because of the vast visuals. I don't think England and its countryside has looked
so
as
beautiful,
stunning. And also,
I mean, don't get me wrong, the Lake District is stunning in itself. They picked a fantastic area for this.
But what they did was the representation of the winding road is symbolic.
Yeah.
Also, certain areas they chose, the vastness, the scale, the tenure of the characters and the situation and the unravelling, perfectly personified characters' emotions, but visually by landscape. It was very clever.
The emptiness as well as some of the
Emptiness,
landscapes.
the vastness, exactly, the void. And that's what he is inevitably going to be.
Yeah.
Also, the clouds. The film was overcast, much like this cloud over Stanley Tucci's character. The movie is a masterpiece, and I really hope that this director goes on to do more films. Whether it's gay central, whether it's love, anything. Because movies like this, dramas, you don't get a sense visually, do you?
No.
You don't get, it's not about the visuals, but there's something very cinematic about this. Also, the choice of angles on their faces, the performances are there. And
do you know what I love the most as well is a lot of things where you're focusing on one character's face, there is almost always their reflection on a mirror or something behind them of the other character. And the thing is I loved about that is, first of all, they didn't get the camera in the way. Because you know how many times you've seen and you see the camera in the bloody window or something. But I love the fact that you could see Colin Firth in all of his glory, but Stanley Tucci is behind him, well, he's in front of him actually. In a mirror, and he's still fucking performing. Yeah. He's not sat there like waiting for Colin to finish his lines. Yeah. He's still performing and everything.
That is where we have to see it again, because your eye is always flitting between. And on such a huge screen.
I don't think I can see it again.
I was so surprised to see this on such a huge screen, and they used that to their advantage. Like, this is going to... And I understand now why they held off on putting on the big screen, the vastness. Also, the whole astrological combination of, you know, the supernova, the stars.
The only thing I didn't like, and this is just a little OCD thing about it, is that every film, whether it be said at the beginning or said at the end or said in the middle, you always find that the words, usually, within a film, that's the name of the film, are said. And in this, at no point did they talk about a supernova.
But the whole situation is a supernova.
I know.
It's a supernova of emotions.
I know that, but usually you hear the words.
And I don't feel that's necessary.
Well, for me,
I'm just saying I didn't feel it's necessary. I didn't feel it detracted from it. If anything,
it doesn't need it. It's just my OCD thing.
I think the greatest thing about this film is all of it. All of its parts.
So, 5 stars for Supernova. Next up is The Father. A man refuses all assistance from his daughter as he ages. As he tries to make sense of his changing circumstances, he begins to doubt his loved ones, his own mind, and even the fabric of his reality. Do you want to go first? Because I've got quite a bit to say about this.
I've got to get up because, to be honest, my opinion on this film is not a good one. I don't like this film, and I need to get up my notes to refamiliarise myself with the specifics, because, to be honest, I could just sit back and listen to you, because I think what I have to offer... Okay, for me, this film, it's... You know, I'm not even going to bother. I want to hear what you have to say. I don't like it.
I like you.
I don't like it. I just think this film's awful, and I think it's Anthony Hopkins just taking a handful of acting pills and doing stuff that he's done in major big blockbusters for years now. But because it's a drama and a British indie film, he's now getting acclaim for it. I think it's the most dementia Alzheimer's performance 101 I've ever seen. I've been around people with Alzheimer's, friends of family, acquaintances, and if you wanted a pantomime performance, this is what Anthony Hopkins does, and I think I just didn't like it. I think the film with its overall execution, editorially, it's a bit too obvious, and it's not subtle, it's not nuanced, it's shit. I hate this film, 1 star. There's nothing there for me to really get behind.
Okay, so, I've worked with a lot of people with dementia and Alzheimer's, and for me, personally, I think Anthony Hopkins' performance was so spot on with how it is on a day-to-day basis when, you know, from getting up in the morning and going to bed at night, the confusion and you know, all of those things that perhaps you don't necessarily see in someone if you see them kind of on a day, you know, if you see them every now and then, and that to almost live with somebody in this state, I think his performance is absolutely spot on. And I think, Zach, you've said it before about how you didn't really feel the character from Olivia Colman. I think that was the point. I feel...
no, there's a coldness, isn't there, generally, because he is fractured and he is confused.
Because he doesn't know who she is anymore, not really. And I think that's the thing is...
The film is an embodiment of his mental
yeah, it is.
self,
it is, absolutely. Yeah. And I think the thing is, for me, I found this probably one of the best films I've ever seen portraying Alzheimer's, because, first of all, it's so spot on, because we feel as confused as he is in his mental state. We feel as cold towards his relatives and as confused towards his relatives and his relatives' husbands or whatever as he is. And there's the element of abuse there from the husband of Olivia Colman, who we're not really sure which one's the husband, which one isn't. And actually we don't really know. It's never really confirmed as to whether he really was hit by him or not. It's not really 100%. And again, this is something that it's very, very poignant in the lives of those with Alzheimer's and dementia, especially in those end stages. It's so incredibly spot on to what it really is like for the person, for the family members, for the nurses and the staff around him. There was nothing I could shit on particularly. It was so incredibly confusing that I just felt nothing but pity and sadness for Anthony Hopkins' character, because of the fact that that's exactly what they were trying to do. And for me, that was probably the most powerful performance I have ever seen.
Fair enough. I completely understand that sentiment and your own emotional binding with it. I completely see where you're coming from. It's more from a level of a film portrayal than the reality of it. You've spent more time with people with the industry that is care homes. I've been around people with such forms, and I think what Anthony Hopkins has done is he's been a bit like me. He's been on the fringes, and he goes, okay, I'm picking up and select characteristics, and I'm going to play that to 11. But you're saying there's certain nuances in there that...
It's spot on. Because the thing is, I'm not doubting your experiences, but the chances
I didn't spend as much exposure to it to pick up on those little nuances.
I've seen these people in their sleep. I've seen these people when they get up in the morning, when they go to bed at night. I've seen them eat. I've seen them drink. I've seen them do everything.
If I, let's say, I worked as, like you did, a receptionist, but someone who as well worked within the team and was kind of forced to be...
Yeah, I did a lot of care work.
To experience it. If I was put in that form of work for however long you did, do you think I would come at this film from a different angle? Because I'm only coming at it from my
your experience.
Yeah.
You've got to remember that everybody relates to different things on an emotional level. And I'm not saying you wouldn't, but I connected really emotionally with the people I worked with.
Yeah.
Because I felt, when I had, and it makes me feel emotional about it now, I had relatives, daughters, sons coming to me and going, Mum doesn't know who I am. Mum doesn't know who I am. And actually, that last bit where Anthony Hopkins was crying for his mum, I cannot tell you how often that happens. Because they think that they're still in that time. They think they're children.
Yeah.
And it's so hard. They think they're in their early 20s when their parents are still alive. I remember saying to this one guy, day in, day out, you're not going to work today, Keith. Today is not a work day. You can't get the train because you're not in the right place. It's a weekend. You have to almost lie to them to get them to go and sit down and watch TV. He's been retired for 20 years.
Yeah.
But they don't get it because in their heads, they have no idea who I am. They think that he thought we were in a hotel.
Oh.
He thought I was the concierge, the receptionist sitting at the hotel. He said, could you tell me the number to get out so I can go to work, please?
And you're like, instead, I'm the receptionist of this care home doing far more shit above my pay grade.
But he had no idea. He had absolutely no idea. So... I mean, yes, maybe if you had worked with people the way I did, maybe you would see this film differently, but it depends on how you emotionally connect with those people and whether you see the right people that create the right instances for you to go, oh my God, I get it now.
I mean, this is the thing, like we've had a recent interval with Brian, my uncle, who's got Down syndrome, and there's certain characteristics of him that I'm more attuned to than you probably are. But let's say someone who isn't neurologically diverse, which would be controversial in of itself, but if someone went out and played someone with Down syndromes or brain damage, and you could come away and go, I don't like that, it's a disrespectful performance, I might come around and go, actually, they've done
exactly
it to a
what
T.
it's like. Yeah, exactly.
I do think it is to do with subjectivity. I think that, I'm not saying you shouldn't give it 5 stars, I'm not saying that you shouldn't respond to it.
I'm not going to give it 5 stars, but go on.
I don't think that but I'm saying, I'm not detracting your experience from it. When we had this conversation with your mum, I think she kind of felt like maybe I was a bit like, no, trust me, I think it's shit, and so should you. I'm never of that take.
I think it's difficult because she hasn't got much to stand on, and for her, you haven't got much to stand on. Are you with me? Because she's never been around people with dementia and Alzheimer's like I have, and neither of you. So she was kind of trying to back me up, and you were backing yourself up, and it was like you were arguing between you, and I'm like, dude, hello, I've actually put these people to bed. I think that's the thing. I think you were both, Mum was kind of trying to say like, oh, you haven't seen it. And you're like, yes, I have. And it's just like, it's not like that. It's the fact of the matter is I've lived with these people for 18 months of my life. And yes, that's a very short period of time. But for me, because of that,
longer than mine and my exposures.
But it's not about that. It's not a competition about that. It's just the fact that I've seen a bit more than you have.
You've got more experience with it.
The thing is, I fell in love with these people. When I left, I cried and cried and cried. Not because of the staff, not because of the team, but because of the people I was leaving behind. And I knew.
You keep alluding to crying. Just fucking do it, really.
But because the people that I knew they weren't going to last for very much longer, and I knew they wouldn't remember me, and that was really hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because when you leave somewhere and you've made such a big difference, you kind of want people to remember you, and you know it's not going to be remembered, and that's a really tough situation to be in. Anyway, point is, for me, The Father, I thought it was absolutely spot on to what it really is like.
Did we ever say these are the films that we saw at the cinema?
No, we didn't. Supernova and this one are films that we've seen on the cinema, and anything after this will be films that we've seen at the cinema. My apologies, or our apologies. For me, The Father was 4 stars.
I gave it 1. Anthony Hopkins, for me, you're unworthy of the Oscar.
Fair enough. Okay, so next up is Nobody. Interestingly, we have differing opinions of this one too. So, synopsis is as follows. Hutch Mansell fails to defend himself or his family when 2 thieves break into his suburban home one night. The aftermath of the incident soon strikes a match to his long-simmering rage. In a barrage of fists...
Range or rage?
Rage.
Oh.
In a
Sorry.
barrage of fists, gunfire, and squealing tyres, Hutch must now save his wife and son from a dangerous adversary and ensure that he will never be underestimated again. Why does it say his wife and son? What about his daughter?
Where's the fucking kitty cat bracelet in that tighten ups, bitch?
You go.
I loved it. I love the action. I love the execution. I love Bob Odenkirk's character. I love the whole facade and thing of having a certain veneer, and beneath it is actually a rampaging professional lunatic. I loved it. I love the director. He did Hardcore Henry, which is one of the most unique action first-person filmic experiences you'll ever have. It's nice to see him get bigger Hollywood exposure. I think Bob Odenkirk's a very good talent. I think that the film is just generally one of those films for me that I switched off to and really loved and really enjoyed. This film gave to me what the fucking hitman's wife's bodyguard wanted to achieve but couldn't achieve, and that of which we walked out of. Which we're not going to be reviewing. Let's just say it here and now. Don't watch that movie.
We watched the first 50 minutes and left.
It is as funny as going to a third world country and seeing dead children in trenches.
For me, I don't know why. It just didn't go well. I found it... I don't know. Nothing about it I found particularly interesting. I didn't absolutely hate it. I'm still going to give it 3 stars because I can understand why other people enjoy it, why other people like it. Completely understand where you're coming from. I think people can enjoy it, but for me, it just did not hit the spots I needed it to hit the spots on.
Do you think it's a tonality?
Maybe. I don't know. There was just...
or the humour wasn't your type of humour?
Possibly.
You
but
can
then
see
again,
the humour in it.
You can say that about Happy Death Day, and I fucking love them. Do you know what I mean? It's just sometimes I just don't think things just hit the spot. And I thought to myself during the film, I thought maybe you're just in a bad mood. I thought, no, I'm bloody well not. I'm just really not enjoying it.
No, you're just really fighting yourself over it for no reason.
Yeah, I was, because I thought maybe I'm just in a bad mood. No, maybe I just need to relax.
You're getting yourself in a bad mood because you thought you were in a bad mood.
Yeah, and I thought, no, I'm not. I thought, no,
it's okay
I just really don't like it.
That's the thing. You've got to realise it's okay not to like.
But you know what it's like? Sometimes you're like, maybe I'm just in a bad mood. Am I in a bad mood?
Oh, yeah.
I'm just in a bad mood.
Yeah.
And I'm saying to myself, you're just in a bad mood. Just relax.
The personification of the invisible man. I was in a terrible mood.
Yeah, but that's
wasn't
what I mean.
good mentally. Also, the whole experience wasn't helped.
Shit, yeah. And I just thought, right, just relax, just chill out.
So you fell into that kind of... You're trying to out-psych yourself in a lot of ways.
I was. And then I was like...
I'm not going to be in that mood. I'm not going to be in that mood. I'm going to give it my full diligence, but if the film's not engaging with you...
But I wasn't in a bad mood.
No.
And then I'm just like, you're not in a bad mood, so just stop. Yeah. And then I was like, so I sort of did. Then I did relax, and I thought, yeah, I can see why people think that's funny. Yeah, I can see why people think that's good. And I'm like, but I'm not.
It is literally John Wick, but the everyman who lives at home. I love this film. 4 stars for me.
Yeah, I'll give it 3 because I can understand why other people.
There were certain moments where you got to say you were like, fuck yeah, you did kind of go, on the bus, like,
Yeah, but
you also liked his father's character, Christopher Lloyd. You laughed the most when he was on screen.
Yeah.
This old man, belligerently...
Old man pretending to be, like, demented, and then he's like...
and, like, holding a man whilst... He's like, I told you, man, turn your TV down. Alright. And he's got a man, like, in a headlock.
Under his arm, yeah. I love that. I thought it was great. But the rest of it just didn't...
With his throne-like armchair.
Yeah. But the rest of it just didn't bond with me.
One thing that didn't really chime with me was RZA's character. We didn't need him. His black brother, his adoptive brother. Right, yeah. I think they're both adopted. I think they're both adopted, and he's just a man who was, like... I think he basically adopted them so he could train his own assassins.
I liked the idea that he had this background of being like an assassin. I did like that kind of twist. And the fact that his wife was... Because at first I was like, why are you being such an arsehole to your husband?
I generated that conversation on the way home because I was a little bit unclear as to what is her take on this. She looked at him like, I'm really fucking disappointed in you. You didn't save our family. And I'm kind of like, why are you throwing shade at him when you know that he's trying to be a better person? But then their sex life starts... reinitiating after he's...
Because I think she truly feels like he's being himself when he's being a bit of a hard,
So when he's not playing the family man, every man...
because that's the start of the film, isn't it? He has his coffee, he gets on his bus and he goes to work. Yeah. And he comes home and he goes to bed. And I think that's the thing. She's realised that he's bored, and she's bored with him because she wants him to be happy overall. I like that. I did like that note to it. But
it's a clever dichotomy going on. I like the notion that the son's like all like beholden by the uncle who's in the military, but the uncle's actually a fake ass, a hothead hillbilly who actually has no skills and is a twat. And I like that also Michael Ironside, who is the grandparent, who he's in a dead-end job. He's basically in a job that of which is run by his father-in-law. His father-in-law is more attuned to who he is than anything, because when all of that unravels, he's in the background like, don't even attempt it. And I like that relationship. He's like, I understand you're in a hard place, but you need to give me reason to say this to you. I just love that sequence where he like fucks up his son, and you can tell that he's more behind his son-in-law than his own son. I just love that. You could tell that there's a history there. He's aware of it because he was a military man. There are layers here that I really fucking enjoyed. I really enjoyed it. I like that notion. I like that veneer, that whole facade. I love how fucking attuned he is to the reality. Also, from a momentary blip over being, burgled, and then he falls into that physical exactitude of something that's been so repressed, and then didn't really get a payoff because they were just desperate, let's say, poor people. And then he comes across a bigger situation, that of which he just passed it off as, these guys have been inappropriate, they're hotheads, they think they're something, I'm just going to fuck you up. And then the repercussions that come from that. I like that RZA was a phantom figure in the background, and that he's like, oh, you're not forcing me out of retirement. It isn't so much the character and the setup, it's why did you need RZA as an actor?
Yeah.
Because I know he's a rapper, he's a house name, but it's kind of like, yeah, the kids will be down with this RZA, and it's like, he doesn't look like RZA, he's fat, and he hasn't rapped for about 15 years. Even I'm like, RZA? Oh yeah, he did that one song, then he made a movie and disappeared from existence. 4 stars for me. I really enjoyed this. I can't recall the director's name, but he is extremely talented.
Ilya Nashula.
Yes, a very good talent. I mean, Hardcore Henry ain't... These films are populist and they're Hollywoodified. This is basically the everyman John Wick. And the popularity of gun fu, like where they treat guns like kung fu, is very strategic. This is really quite hard and dirty and use things at your disposal. And it kind of takes John Wick to another level. It's the same team who did it, and you can tell with certain camera styles and executions that it's from the same world and they could converge. And I think there's a little wink, wink, nudge, nudge there. But I think this is just a little bit more grittier and on the ground than John Wick, which is kind of elevated stylistically and is kind of unbelievable with the type of things that happen.
Right, we've got 20 minutes before I start dinner because we've got to get out soon.
Yes.
So we need to... Speedy Gonzalez. Dream Horse.
Lovely film, enjoyed it, made me cry.
Very quickly, the true story of Dream Alliance, an unlikely racehorse bred by small-town bartender Jan Vokes. With very little money and no experience, Jan convinces her neighbours to chip in their meagre earnings to help raise Dream and compete with the racing elites. Their investment pays off as Dream rises through the ranks and becomes a beacon of hope for their struggling community. I just loved this film. It was so sweet. We were absolutely...
From top to bottom, left to right, it is just lovely.
Egging on the horse all the way, and lovely to see the ending as well with the real people versus the actors. Oh yeah,
together,
I love that.
Intermingled.
Absolutely love
you don't get that with films, really, do you?
Not the true story ones, because they're not fucking true stories.
And they're boring. A lot of true story films are boring. This is sweet, delicate, and Toni Collette, she can do every accent under the fucking sun. And she looks so hot in a co-op uniform.
Right, I'm going to move on to Cruella. I'm going to skip...
How many stars?
Oh, sorry.
5.
Dream Horse 5, yeah, absolutely. I'm going to move on to Cruella and come back to A Quiet Place 2 because I want to go off on a good ending. Mm-hmm. Estella is a young and clever grifter who's determined to make a name for herself in the fashion world. She soon meets a pair of thieves who appreciate her appetite for mischief, and together they build a life for themselves on the streets of London. However, when Estella befriends fashion legend Baroness von Hellman, she embraces her wicked side to become the raucous and revenge-bent Cruella. As far as I'm concerned, the performances were shite. My mum says that because it was made in for her day, it was different. As Zach said, he likes silent films that are black and white. It's got nothing to do with that. The performances were shit. Everything was...
That's an opt-out to have a discussion, though. It always is. Oh, it's not for your generation. Listen. I watch films from the 1900s, so don't give me that shit. And then they're like...
As I said, it could have been made in 1887 or it could have been made in 2026. No, either way, it's
still
absolute
not a good
shite.
film.
There was nothing about it that I enjoyed. It was boring. None of the comedy elements were good. The only thing that I found even slightly interesting was the fact that the dress that I thought had beads on it turned into moths, but then the moths were shit CGI, as were the dogs. Everything was just an absolute mess. The way that the trailer was cut together looked absolutely fantastic.
Like a heist psychological drama centred around one of the most famous villainesses out there.
Cruella is supposed to be a smoker with those long smoky things with the cigarette in the end.
Cigarette holder.
Thank you. You think that a simple thing like that would come to mind, but obviously not. She's supposed to kill dogs to make her coats. The even tiniest little relevance, like the actual connection of that, was swept over really, really quickly, swept under the carpet.
The notion of it is enough. No, it isn't.
No, it's
not. You need to fall into pure evil.
If you want to make this a pure evil film, you need to, and actually mention it, make it a higher age limit rated film. But, I mean, it was absolutely shocking.
I mean, 12A is... I mean, this is the funny thing. This just shows the generation. 101 Dalmatians, 102 Dalmatians, live action ones of Glenn Close.
Was it PG or you?
You. One of them was a PG.
And we knew that Cruella killed the
Dogs.
Dalmatians to make her coats.
Live action as well, dogs. The association. But we've got CGI dogs here, so you think it would be more fantastical. The film is awful. The director is so self-indulgent. He obviously is using a bigger budget than he's usually used to. Too many cooks in the kitchen. Not enough good ideas. Emma Thompson, I love you. But this was pure tongue-in-cheek. I am just going to gurn for the camera. This film did not work. Why they are steamrolling and greenlighting a sequel, I have no idea. People are just desperate. There are so many Disney properties now that are being live-actionised, whatever you call, and they're good or they're awful. Most of them I've watched, I've liked. Specifically Aladdin, This one had potential. Emma Stone is a good actress. Everything around this film surrounded it. Everything just doesn't work. I just
can't understand how Emma Thompson and Emma Stone, which are really good actresses, just managed to absolutely
play off each other. They didn't play off each other well. It's almost like I can out pantomime performance you. Looks ugly, feels ugly. Mark Strong is wasted in a role as a butler who knows the secret. The whole fucking spoiler and reveal is it's literally a rip-off of Luke, I Am Your Father, but it doesn't work because it just doesn't work. Not much attention and focus. I think people have gone into this, taken material and gone, we can elevate this material beyond that of which it is. Actually, you go in and you own the material, you like the material. They've got a lot of artists involved who are from an indie, more experimental, contemporary scene. Yeah. Get people who like the properties, understand the characters. That's what I have to say. No stars for Cruella. Crapuella.
Agreed.
Fucking awful. Disgrace.
Last but by no means least, A Quiet Place Part 2. I will do a synopsis because I can't help myself. Following the deadly events at home, the Abbott family must now face the terrors of the outside world as they continue their fight for survival in silence. Forced to venture into the unknown, they quickly realise that the creatures that hunt by sound are not the only threats that lurk beyond the sand path.
Now,
that gives me goose pimples just reading it.
Now, there are going to be narrative disparities because this movie came out and they didn't think it was going to be a series. So I understand why there's narrative disparities. Let's get it out the way. It doesn't matter.
I don't care. This film, the first film, and this as a follow-up, are probably the best two films I've ever seen in my entire life. Yes, I'm saying it.
Was it better
yes, it's true.
to see the second one in the cinema?
It absolutely was. I absolutely loved it, despite the audience on both occasions weren't exactly 100%, but they weren't as bad as I thought they could be, like they were in Invisible Man. These films are sensational. The way that they are made. I mean, John Krasinski as a director, oh my God. And he's gorgeous. I mean, what more else could he have for going for him? these films are just absolutely sensational. They're fantastic. There's nothing about them that I can shit on. Yes, there are a couple of things where I'm like, why have you not got shoes on? And he has got shoes on. Do you know what? I don't care. I love the fact that at the beginning...
why they don't swim, but they were in water in the light? It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't. There were a couple of things that I went, why? And then I was like, do you know what? Do we care? No, we don't
Switch off.
care.
Just invest in what is happening and unfolding in this film.
Absolutely.
It doesn't contradict anything that comes before. That is what happens. People think it's a contradiction. It really isn't, because John Krasinski in interviews went, well, I can give you so many answers to that, and it will still make the film cohesive. So I'm not even going to bother.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't need it. There was a couple of things that I went, and then after I said them to you, we both went, do we care? I was like, no.
First of all, this movie is Millicent Simmons.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
She is going to be, going forward, the star of this series. This is her film. And I love it because she is actually deaf. She actually communicates.
This film made me want to learn sign language.
It does. It makes you want to, because it makes you sit back and go, how many people are deaf out in this world, and I have no way to communicate with them.
I'd love
and
to
all
be
the
able
hard
to...
work is on their end, not ours, theirs.
I'd love to be able to sign to be able to communicate with deaf people. I'd love to be able to sign to communicate with people so that other people don't understand in a way.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a special thing. Not a special thing like they're part of something that we're not and how it sucks to be them. I feel like it sucks to be me not knowing it. Do you know what I mean? It's like a language I want to know so that I can have a conversation with somebody and you guys don't know because you're too fucking stupid or
up your own arse
that you can't actually go and learn it. That's how much I want to learn.
Well, there's a lot of
language.
ignorance in this world. So much ignorance that our audience members, petulant 15-year-old girls, were laughing at Millicent Simmons when she was given the most powerful...
performance.
And I love that they allowed her to incorporate her actual voice, and it makes me want to cry because it makes it so much more powerful.
It's so strong, so strong.
She has a voice. Her language and communication isn't just sign language. She does have a voice.
It's everything.
And also, most well spoken.
Oh God, yeah. I loved as well the fact that at the beginning, when the guy was like, "How do you say dive?" and she showed him how to say dive, and it incorporates it later.
I didn't expect that.
I did. I knew. I was waiting all the time. I was like, "When are we going to see
this?"
I
was like tapping, but I ended up tapping you, going, and you were doing it as well. We were indicating the sign language for dive.
I knew it was coming, but I needed to wait until it happened. And watching it the second time,
this film gives you. You're tense. You're just exasperated. You're breathless. Also,
I don't think I breathed for the entire 90 minutes.
It's so emotional. There's a sequence between Cillian Murphy, of whom is meant to be this replacement father figure, and it's made abundantly clear in this sequence, I'm not going to be your father figure. I don't need to be. It says, I'm nothing like your dad. It makes me want to cry.
You are your dad. I did cry. First time around. Second time I knew it was coming, so I was like, I'm not going to cry.
Because the dad is the emblem of hope. And people say, oh, John Krasinski just wanted to, show his star flavour. The dad is the centrality to this. See how quick he reacts. He's the first one to get up when he sees this streaking meteorite. As soon as that fucking creature comes out of nowhere, the alien, and fucking buffers into that police car, I'm running. I'm going to my kid. He is the centrality. He is the essence of this world. He is and that's why it's clever that they killed him. He's always going to be this semi-formed spirit, whether in flashback or in essence. He is the centrality to this film. He is the hope.
The kids are always trying to be like him.
Yeah. Except Noah Hawley's son. The son has his own journey, though. At the end, where it cross-cuts between them defeating an alien on their own, was powerful. Emily Blunt takes a back seat, but I think that was necessary, and she was more than willing to do that. She's not going to wave a flag and go, darling, I want to be the face of this. Even though marketing, they've done that, because it misleads you. Millicent Simmons, I know it's not going to happen, but give this girl an Oscar nom. She is given more than any other actor could. She conveys the emotion. She conveys emotion in a sense of atypically, and not atypically for normal people, the emotion through sign. Also, her engagement with Cillian Murphy, where she takes his face and she's guiding him and she's going, I want to watch this film again and again because there's so many layers, there's so many depths to it. It is a masterpiece, and it's probably one of my favourite films of this year.
Rating, please.
500. I love it.
I give it 5 million.
Go see it.
Absolutely.
Also, if anything to return to the cinema to, this is that film. And I'm so happy they withheld it, because we were a week from release when we went into lockdown.
We were. One thing I will say is don't take popcorn.
No.
Because it's so quiet.
No wrestling of bags. I was like literally like finishing off my shit. Because I don't want... That silence is necessary.
Yeah. It's so tense. Okay, so 5 stars from both of us for A Quiet Place Part 2. One other thing I just want to bring up with you guys, because I put a post on Facebook and not a single person reacted, let alone commented.
We get the listeners, but we don't get engagements on social media. It's infuriating.
So, listeners, we want you to engage, please. I'm looking at the phone as if I can see you. I can see you. We are going to do a book, and it will be released under Sweat Drenched Press, but it is an articulate warbling book. And it's going to be called The Book That No One Will Read, because obviously no one will bloody well read it because you won't engage. That was very English of me, wasn't it?
Engage, Aragog,
King of Arachnids.
You do not die in vain.
We're going to make a book and we're going to put some of our reviews in there. I'm hoping that DB will be on board and he will do some of his fantastic spoken word jokes, but in written form.
I mean, the thing is, he is like the commentator upon our material.
He absolutely is, and I think it would not be a book of articulate warbling
unless
without
we
DB.
have an abridged version where DB just will rinse me.
Exactly.
Because he wouldn't dare be
Rinse
seen
me.
rinse a woman in public, because he knows Laura would get a first-class ticket to kick his arse.
And yeah, so we have an idea about a few like comic sketches, and some
Reviews.
some of our reviews,
Warbles.
some of our warbles. So if any of you want to be involved, and if any of you want any of your books reviewed, included in our book, then please tell us and we can ensure that happens.
Whether we've reviewed it before or not, or you have a certain piece you would like to have immortalised review-wise in a book.
And you don't have to send us a physical book. It can be like a PDF version via
we
email.
We don't
Just
specify physical copies. I cannot tell you how many physical fucking copies I've sent out, spent so much money, and I've only got someone go, thanks for the book.
Yeah.
When you offered me
a review.
Promised me a review.
Exactly. So if you want to send a physical book, that's great. We will accept, of course, and we will be happy to do that. But we absolutely appreciate that PDF is probably the best way to go, and we will review that way. But we want people to be involved, and obviously it will be an articulate warbling book
and
in itself.
Before we usher out, we have a new release. It is called Terse, Songs of Caritzis, arranged and created by N. Cassiopo.
We haven't spoken about Matt
Kinlin's book, which has come out as well.
Let's start again. We've had 2 new releases in the last couple of months. First being Curse Red, Curse Blue, Curse Green by Matthew Kinlin, and the second being Terse, Songs of Caritzis. Arranged and created by N. Cassiopo.
Which means he wrote it.
Also, something that Zak's just missed, and I can't believe he has, and something I'm very proud of him for, and nobody else seems to be proud at all, is Zak's release, finally, of the System Compendium, which can be bought, limited edition and normal edition, might I add, on the website. And please, I cannot stress enough, with Sweat Drenched Press stuff, purchases that way are the only way that we can keep running going forward. And yes, you can buy it on Amazon, but do you know what? You're supporting us more.
And our authors.
And our authors more if you buy through the press website. So that is, as always, sweatdrenchedpress.webador.co.uk.
There's an international channel and outlets for Amazon online. I have looked recently. These books aren't available. They are available through us. So if you're in Canada, Germany, France, Australia, and you can't get hold of them, New Zealand, you can't get hold of them through Amazon and their outlet, that is a glitch on their system. But we
can do everything internationally. So if you think you can't get it on Amazon, I can assure you we can get it to you. And yeah, I can't stress enough. The thing is, at the moment, right now, we're okay. but there's going to be a time in probably only a year to 18 months time where we won't be able to continue the way we are, if at all, if we're not supported a bit more through purchases through our website, unfortunately. So that's the most important thing I will say.
It is. I have also 2 other releases, Textures and Soft Tissue. Soft Tissue's got an amazing response by Shane Jesse Christmas, thank you. That is like a short, contemporary, almost poetical journalisation of certain moods and tenures of what's going on in lockdown, and Textures is a whole total encapsulation of artistic expression and intent from me, which RJ Vazicek or Rene Georges Vazicek kindly blurb. They are also available via the website, as aforementioned, and on Amazon. And I think that is it for our episode, before your neighbours start drowning us out with their bullshit as usual.
We are off in only a short 2 hours' time to see Fast and Furious 9 in preparation for my birthday.
And Laura hasn't seen anything pertaining to this film.
Zach is so flabbergasted that I have not seen a trailer, that I have not seen the poster, and I have not seen anything that he was considered to be a spoiler, and now it's not a spoiler. It's going to be a spoiler for me because I haven't seen anything, and I won't see anything because we are 2 hours away and I've made it, baby.
You made it. What are we having for dinner?
Lasagna.
Nice.
Okay. A la Laura.
A la Laura. I thought you said Anton Laura. Anyway, thank you as always. Remember to hit subscribe.
Indeed.
Like us. Review us. Hate us.
Engage with us. Engage with us.
And we will see you on the next Articulate Warbling. On the next Articulate Warbling episode. Goodbye.
Goodbye.